Alright, what is up, everybody? We are back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today is prediction time. The NBA season starts in about a week, and I'm going to be doing predictions for the next week until the NBA season starts. And today we're starting off predicting the Eastern Conference, trying to predict the Eastern Conference standings. It's going to be very tough, but I'm going to try and see what happens, so that's what we're going to do today. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, like, turn on notifications, do all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. Really upset a lot. Join the membership. If you want to learn more about the membership, there's a video on my channel explaining all of it. You can go back and watch that. Link to my Twitters, all that stuff down in the description below. And yeah, don't waste any more of your time. Let's get right into it. So we're gonna go from the bottom to the top here in standings in the East. So we'll start at number 15. At the 15 seed in the Eastern Conference, we're going with the Washington Wizards. Now, it's a battle between the Nets and the Wizards, probably for the worst team, maybe not only in the East, but maybe in the NBA, because those two rosters obviously not very good. And I'm not going to lie, preseason definitely had a little bit of an effect on me in terms of thinking about this. And I went with the Wizards at 15 because the Wizards look very, very bad, which they should be. They should be very, very bad. They should be going out and trying to get a #1 pick and trying to be the worst ever so they can go get a top pick, go get Cooper Flag or Dylan Harper or whoever is out there, so they should be bad, but I'm expecting them to be very, very, very bad this season. Another year, Jordan Poole is now the starting point guard, which I don't know how well that's going to be. They have Kyle Kuzma still, who knows how long he's going to be still on the team. He probably should be gone off this team by February. And then after that, you just got a lot of young pieces. Alex Starr, the #2 overall pick, looks like he's probably going to start very early on. You still have, again, Jordan Poole trying to develop. Bilal Coulibaly in year #2, trying to see if he can take another step. You still have Corey Kispert over there. Bub Carrington, Keyshawn George, two guys you also drafted in the first round. Hopefully maybe getting some minutes. Maybe Johnny Davis, I don't know. Maybe, who knows, his third year. He hasn't shown anything in his first 2 years. Maybe they give him an opportunity to see. But yeah, I'm just expecting the Wizards to be playing out bad this season. If they get anything above the 14th spot, it'll be a very, very big surprise because they just are not a very good roster. When you look at just overall NBA talent, they're arguably the bottom of the league. At the most maybe 28th. And so, especially in an NBA and Eastern Conference that's very top heavy, where they're gonna have to play teams like the Celtics and the Bucks 3 times, maybe even 4 times, it's gonna be very, very tough to win, which again, for them, they shouldn't want to win. For them, it should be, let's tank, let's get a high pick as possible, and let's try to find our star for the future. But yeah, for my 15, I'm going with the Washington Wizards. Next, going at number 14 for the Eastern Conference, we have the Brooklyn Nets. Again, like I said, them and the Wizards were the two teams that were battling against each other for who's going to be 14 and 15. These two are probably going to be the 14 and 15 seed in the East. However way it's flipped, it's going to be these two teams at the bottom. And for the Brooklyn Nets, obviously they traded Mikal Bridges. They're picking, let's tank, let's rebuild, and let's go try to get a high pick as possible. And when you look at just overall talent on rosters, on paper, look in the NBA, the Nets honestly have the worst talent in terms of all the rosters in the NBA. I mean, right now their best player might be Cam Thomas, which it's going to be, I guess, nice to see him full just go. No leash on him, just let him go and see what happens. They still have a couple competent players, a lot more competent players I feel like than the Wizards, which is why I think I picked them over the Wizards, even though both these teams are probably going to have sub 20 wins. 20 at the most, maybe 22 wins, 23 maybe if they can get lucky, which I think the Nets maybe can get to 22, 23 potentially. But they still have competent players, guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, that maybe they can get a little 2-game win streak, randomly in the league. But ultimately, I don't expect them to be good, and I don't think they want to be good. And also, you can expect a lot of those guys I just named, like Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson, to probably get traded during the trade deadline. Ben Simmons is also back, so we can see what he can do potentially if he gets to play. And yeah, just looking at the young talent, want to see guys like Cam Thomas go out there and play. Noah Clowney, Dariq Whitehead, 2 guys they drafted. Jalen Wilson, 3 guys they drafted last year's draft. See what they can do. And it's just going to be a team where they're just going to try out a bunch of different things. Going to see a lot of young players, especially after February, if they do trade guys like DFS and Cam Johnson, and just see what, and Dennis Schroeder's also on this team. Probably trade him and just see them be bad. But yeah, I expect the Nets to be I'm predicting the Nets to be the 14th seed. At 13 in the East, we're going with the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons obviously were the worst team in the NBA last year. Very, very horrible season. And this offseason, they brought a new coach, brought in a lot of veteran players, got some new things going on. And honestly, in preseason, I have liked what I've seen from the Detroit Pistons. They look like an actually competent basketball team. Now, again, I don't think they're going to be a playoff team or anything like that. But 13th is a lot better than 15th and 14th. You know what I mean? Especially for Detroit Pistons at this point, that they're not trying to tank and get the number one pick every year anymore. You know, they actually have to start seeing some things happen with this team. But yeah, I honestly do kind of like what I've been seeing for the Detroit Pistons. I honestly almost put them a spot or two higher. But I cooled myself because I'm like, it's preseason. Do not judge everything off of preseason. You know, because they can definitely come out and go and win 27 games this season, which I'm expecting probably around that range, but that would be a big improvement for the Detroit Pistons, honestly. But yeah, I like what I've seen from a lot of their guys. Cade Cunningham going into year 4, expecting a big year from them, maybe an all-star type of season. Jalen Duren's out here. Jaden Ivey looks really, really good in preseason. He probably has that confidence back. Ron Holland as a rookie, see what he can do. Guys like Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., veterans in there. Tobias Harris look really, really good so far over there. They changed some lineups. They got more shooting in there. Like, the Pistons should be a lot better team than last year. I think I hands down think they're better than the Wizards and the Brooklyn Nets. So I'm putting Detroit at 13, which I think is a pretty solid improvement for them, especially after coming off of a horrible last season. At 12, we're going with the Chicago Bulls. They look very new as well. No more DeMar DeRozan, no more Alex Caruso, bringing a lot more younger people. A younger team, bringing in Josh Giddey. They drafted Matas Buzelis. You know, guys like maybe Jalen Smith, Dalen Terry Patrick Williams going to get a lot more opportunity this season. They still have Zach LaVine, which is why I'm predicting them to be better. I honestly almost put the Bulls at 13, the Pistons at 12, but I ultimately went with the Bulls because they have Zach LaVine. They have a lot more competent roster than the Detroit Pistons, I'm assuming, I think, like, for me. So that's why I'm putting them above the Pistons. But honestly, I don't think I would be very surprised if the Bulls are worse than the Pistons this season. But the Bulls, still LaVine. Lonzo Ball's going to get to play, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's just more going to the younger players, which I think the Bulls, that's overdue for Chicago. You know, getting Kobe White some more opportunity, Matas Buzelis, drafted him. I really love the pick of Matas Buzelis over there. Get other guys like Patrick Williams, Ayo Dosunmu, just some more confidence, just see what we got in them, you know. And Zach LaVine, is he going to get traded? I don't really know. I wouldn't bet my money on it right now. Maybe at the trade deadline, who knows, something happens. But the Bulls, yeah, I'm expecting them to be lower. You know, I'm expecting them not to be very, very good. And to probably, yeah, just eventually at some point be like, you know what, let's just tank the rest of the season, you know. At 11, I'm going with the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors, honestly, I wanted to put them higher. I wanted them to be a playing team. And I do think they have the potential to be, with Scotty Barnes coming off an All-Star season. Now he's the main focal point of the Toronto Raptors. I'm really expecting Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett both to have a nice season. I think one of those guys, I'm doing my award predictions in a couple days, and one of those guys is going to be on my MIP ballot, you know. But those two guys, and then they have Jakob Poeltl. They have some decent things around there. I've lost a little bit of confidence after that media day when they basically, the whole team came out and said, yeah, we're not trying to win this season. You know, so that's why, honestly, that's, I think, the big reason why I didn't put them in playing conversation. I put them at number 11, just outside, but I do think they have a competent enough roster, especially in this point in the East, where after the top 8, it kind of is a drop off. Then it's like Atlanta, Charlotte, Detroit, them, Chicago. Like, I do think they have a pretty solid roster compared to all of those 5 teams, but seeing how their kind of attitude is, what they want their goals to be this season, I put them a little bit lower. At number 10, I'm going with the Charlotte Hornets. A little bit high, you know, and honestly, I didn't expect them to put them this high, but then when I was doing this, I was like, you know what? Especially preseason also is taking a little bit of, you know, factor into this, but I like what I've seen from the Charlotte Hornets. And honestly, this whole prediction based off LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball, obviously, the last 2 years, he's dealt with a lot of health issues. But when he's on the court, when he's playing for the Charlotte Hornets, they're just a straight up better team. There's no question, doubt about it. They are better with LaMelo Ball on the court. And so far, LaMelo Ball honestly has been one of the best players in the preseason so far. He's playing, he's healthy, he's hitting shots, he's playing really good. You know, Brandon Miller going into year 2, see what we can do from him, or we can see from him. Trey Mann looks like a early Sixth Man of the Year candidate. They brought in, they have some really good things around him. Tajon Salon, their lottery pick, looks decent in the preseason. Mark Williams hopefully could be back. They have Nick Richards. Like, they have a not horrible team. Like, when you look at a roster, you're like, this isn't horrible. It's not great. It's not locked for the playoff or play-in, but it's not bad. And when LaMelo Ball is out there in the court, if he's healthy, they are going to win games just because LaMelo. They're going to have a couple games this season where they win just because LaMelo has hit some big shots, But and we saw it. The last time LaMelo Ball had a healthy season back in 2021 and 2020, like they made the play-in. Now they got smoked in the play-in, but they made the play-in. And I think this roster is a lot better than those rosters were. So I think the Charlotte Hornets, if LaMelo is healthy, I got them as a 10th seed in the East and in the play-in. At number 9, we got the Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta obviously made some moves this offseason. They traded DeJounte Murray. They had the number 1 overall pick. They drafted Zachary Versace. And now it's kind of just Trae Young and the guys, and they're going a lot younger this season. And Atlanta, they're an interesting team. I honestly feel like this is like the perfect spot for Atlanta, because you're going to see the teams that I see above them. I think the teams above them are definitely better, but also I think they're better than the teams at the bottom. So they're kind of just stuck in like this weird middle ground where I feel like they're not going to be higher than like 7 or 8, but they also aren't going to be lower than 10. And if they're lower than 10, that means things went really wrong, or a big injury happened or something like that. But Atlanta, I think this is just a perfect spot for them, being around 9. Trae Young, I think he's going to have a big season. Trae Young is still an all-star, all-NBA caliber type of player. Jalen Johnson looks very, very good in preseason. He looks like he's going to take another jump, which if he does that, that's going to make this team a whole lot better. Zachary Versace has some pretty good looks so far in preseason. They got guys like DeAndre Hunter is still there. Bogdan Bogdanovic is still there. He's a capable 6-man. Clint Capella is still solid. Kongwu maybe can get some potential. Dyson Daniels maybe could break out here. Larry Nance Jr. is still solid. Like, they still have a very solid team. Kobe Buffkin maybe in year 2 maybe get some opportunity at some point. This is a very solid team. This is a play-in. I feel like when you think of play-in teams, I feel like this is the definition of a play-in team. A team that's through 7 and 10, where they're just like, they're good, they have some good things, they're not horrible, but they're not, they're not up there. They're just kind of like, okay, they're decent. They'll probably be around a 40 to 43 win team, for Atlanta. But yeah, I have them at the number 9 seed. At the 8th seed, I have the Miami Heat. The Heat are one of the more tough teams to judge when it comes to predictions and all that stuff, because they never really have an amazing roster on paper, yet they still find a way to win games sometimes, and they still find ways to advance farther than what they should, because they have Eric Spoelstra, who's one of the greatest coaches we've ever seen, and he always finds a way to make it work. I honestly wanted to put the Miami Heat a little bit higher, but I couldn't. I really couldn't. Jimmy Butler on a contract year came in, and I'm expecting him maybe to have a serious regular season where he comes out and actually wants to try and be an all-star and can be an all-NBA type player. Still have Bam Adebayo. Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier are both healthy. We didn't really get to see them play a whole lot last year, but they're relying a lot on them. You see a lot more of the younger guys. Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, rookie Khalil Ware, Josh Richardson. They have Kevin Love. They have some veterans. Duncan Robinson's still here. Like, they still have a good enough team. They still have a good team where I think they definitely can finish top 8. I feel like the only way they don't finish top 8 is if injuries happen, or if one of the teams like Atlanta or Toronto is better than we expected, But Miami, yeah, it's hard for me to put them above a lot of the teams. A lot of the teams in front of them, the teams that you're going to see that I put higher than the Miami Heat, I feel like there's a very valid reason, and it's hard for me to put Miami above them, even though they are good. And Eric Spoelstra is one of those guys that, if you can trust anybody with a job of putting a team together and making a team overachieve, it's Eric Spoelstra. But it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't really, like, right now at least, I can't put them above a lot of these teams. I can't trust that they're going to be healthy. They haven't been healthy really in a couple of years. I want, and I'm expecting Jimmy to have a regular season that he actually tries, but can I actually count on it to do him to do that? Can I actually really believe that he can do it? I don't really know. Can I trust that Tyler Hero can make it? I don't know what I can really trust in Miami besides Eric Spoelstra and Bam Adebayo. Like, that's really the only things I can trust over there in Miami right now. So that's why I have to put him at 8. At 7, we have the Orlando Magic as the last play-in team. Well, the first play-in team, but the last one I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. But yeah, Orlando, they were the 5th seed last year. So by standing wise, it looks like they're going to take a drop. But I only think they drop in standings because the rest of the top of the Eastern Conference got really, really, really good. You know, like obviously, you probably can guess what the top teams are. You're going to see them in a couple of minutes. But Orlando, I don't think if they drop from 5 to 7, I don't think that's a bad year for them. If they still are a playoff team, I think that's still good. And I still think they're going to be a very competent team that you're not going to want to play. I still think they're going to be very good. I think Paolo in year 3 is going to be very good. Franz Wagner hopefully has a bounce back shooting year. They brought in KCP. They basically brought back the same team. Jalen Suggs is not the full-time point guard. We'll see how that works. But Orlando still has a really good team. I still really love what the Orlando Magic are building over there. It's just depending on the rest of the Eastern Conference and stuff. And honestly, this 6 through 8 range, I think honestly is going to be very, very tight. Like, I won't be surprised if all these teams have this, like, are a game in between each other. You know, like, I will not be surprised if the Magic and Heat are separated by like 2 games, or the team I'm about to say at 6 and the 7 seed Magic are like a 1-game separation. Kind of like last year, how I think was it 6, 7, and 8 were all like 1 game in between each other or tied. You know, so like that's what I'm expecting. So when I say standings like 7 and 8 and stuff, don't think it's like I think this team is way better than the other team. It's just I think they probably gonna win 1 or 2 more regular season games, you know, than the other team. But Orlando, I have them at 7. Still very excited to see how they do, and I do think they're a team that could be a 5 seed, maybe even a 4 seed again. You know, if depending on other teams' health and if they really have a big bounce season, because they do have a lot of young talent that can jump and can surprise a lot of people. But right now, Orlando, I'm predicting them 7. At 6, we have the Indiana Pacers. Indiana, I put them above teams like Orlando, teams like Miami, because their offense. And when you're in the regular season, if you have an offense like the Indiana Pacers have the offense, you're going to win a lot of games. Like, I honestly maybe even consider putting Indiana a little bit higher. Even though, do I think they're better than a lot of teams that higher than? No. But I think they could probably win a lot more regular season games than a lot of the teams, just because they have the offense where they're going to have nights where they put up 130, 135, 140 points on teams, and some teams just don't have the offensive firepower like that. But Indiana does. You know, with Tyrese Halliburton, hopefully he can have a full healthy season. Can't count on it, but hopefully he has a full healthy season where he can show who he really is. Pascal Siakam now with a full off season in Indiana, I'm expecting him to be a lot better. They still have guys like Andrew Nembhard, Miles Turner is still there, Aaron Nesmith, Bennedict Mathurin is back, and he's looking good in preseason. Like, they have a really good team, and I really like this Indiana Pacers team. You know, they're gonna have a lot more high expectations because they were in the conference finals last season. But Indiana, I have them at 6. I expect them to be a good regular season team, just because, again, they have the offensive firepower that they're gonna win a bunch of games just because of that. At 5, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. Honestly, this top 5, well, at least maybe not 1, but 2 through 5 was the hardest to do for this Eastern Conference, because I'm like, these are all good teams, and honestly, all these teams are probably gonna be separated by a little bit of games, and really it just depends on health. You know, like the Cleveland Cavaliers, I have them at 5. Let's talk about them. They brought in Kenny Atkinson as a new coach. They basically brought back the same team, and so far in preseason, the one game where they did play all together, I loved what I saw. You know, Evan Mobley looks like maybe this could be the year he takes a jump. Darius Garland looks a lot more comfortable with Kenny Atkinson over there. We know what Donovan Mitchell can do. They have some solid things all around. And as long as they have that defense and they have Donovan Mitchell, they're going to be at least a 47-win team. That's just what they have been since Donovan Mitchell has been there. I mean, last year, their starting 5 maybe only played, I don't even know how many, but they didn't play that many games together. And they still won, 47, 48 games? So, like, if health, obviously, every team on this prediction from East and West, all of it is going to be health is obviously the number 1 factor, because if one player gets hurt that we don't expect to get hurt, then that changes a whole lot of things. But Cleveland has a good enough team where they're going to be around a 47 to 50 win team. Honestly, consider them putting maybe even 3 or 4, just because I think they're going to be a good regular season team, you know. And I won't be surprised if they do finish top 3, maybe even number 2. They sneak up there randomly in the Eastern Conference, because I think they just are that's what they are at this point. They're a good regular season team, you know. So yeah, and I like what I've been seeing in the changes in the offense and all that stuff. So, but right now I have them at 5, to predict, but I won't be surprised if they're a little bit higher. At 4, we have the Philadelphia 76ers. They were a team that it was also kind of tough to judge, because on paper, when you look at their roster, you're like, this should be a top team in the Eastern Conference, and I think they are going to be. But you have to consider Joel Embiid, how much games he's going to play. Paul George, how many games he's going to play. Are they really going to take the regular season seriously in a sense? Are they just going to hold Joel out for a lot of times? I just got a report right before doing this video that Joel Embiid probably won't play a lot of back-to-backs for the rest of his career. So, that's why they're a team that is, they're better than what their record is. I won't be surprised if the Sixers this regular season aren't as amazing. They're not a 50-win team or anything like that, and they're maybe a 5th seed, a 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, but on paper they're better. And I think that they could be a team subject to that, where they're not going to take the regular season super seriously and not going to care about winning 55 games, because they do have Joel Embiid that, they don't want to burn him out before April. They need him for April. They'll do anything they can to save him as much as they can, so when April comes, he's there and fully ready to go. Same with Paul George. So I won't be surprised about that. But I do have him at 4, because I do think when Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey are playing games together, they're not going to lose that many games. And I don't think they're going to sit Joel everything. I don't think Joel's going to play 32 games. But I do think he might be around the 50 range. And if he could play 50 games, the Sixers are going to win majority of those 50 games, because they're just so good. And that already right there is probably about 40-something wins. And now taking the games where it's Tyrese Maxey and Paul George, and maybe one of those two have a big night, or they're playing a bad team and they get a win like that. That could be about 47, 48 wins, which I do think is around what the 4 and 5 seed is going to be in the Eastern Conference. So for Philly, I have them at 4. I won't be surprised they're a little bit lower than what their actual team on paper is, but right now I have them at 4. At the 3rd seed in the East, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks also were a team that honestly I was considering moving down maybe a little bit, but then I thought Giannis Antetokounmpo's on this team, and Giannis, when he's on the Bucks, they're not going to be lower than a top 3 seed. I can't remember the last time they were lower than a top 3 seed, besides when Giannis first became a guy back in 2018 or 2017. I can't remember them being less than a 3 seed in the East with Giannis out there. So I just feel like they have to be up here as a 3 seed. Damian Lillard, I'm expecting him to get going. Doc Rivers, they had a full offseason together. Well, Doc Rivers at least had a full offseason. Now as a Bucks coach, maybe he can implement some things. We'll see what happens, but I think as long as Giannis is on that Bucks team and playing games, they're going to be at least a top 3 seed. So that's why I have them at number 3. At 2, we have the New York Knicks again. The Knicks, Karl-Anthony Towns is there now, and I love what I've seen, how Karl-Anthony Towns has fit in so far in New York in a couple preseason games. Jalen Brunson, you're expecting to do his Jalen Brunson thing. They have Mikal and OG on the wings. They just have a really, really good team. And honestly, I think they really do care about winning games with regular season and all that stuff, where with Tom Thibodeau is out there, they're going to play at least 35 to 40 minutes. And when you have your best players playing out there for that long, you're going to win a lot of games. So I just think New York is just really, really good. They're going to try to go far and have, when you have the Madison Square Garden as your home, you want to play as many games in there as possible. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm going to have the Knicks as a 2 seed in the East. And at number 1, not really any surprise here, the Boston Celtics. They won a championship. They were the best team in the league last year, and they brought back the same team. So, expecting them to win, to be 58, maybe more than 60 game season. That's just what I'm expecting from them. Even if they don't have Porzingis for a little while, for the start of the season, I don't think it really matters. They just have a good enough team where it's just they're going to win at least 54, 55 games with this team. There's not really much to say about the Boston Celtics at this point. They won a championship. They have the same exact team, and I'm expecting them to do similar things last year to this year, at least in the regular season. Playoffs, we'll see what happens, but that's so far away. Right now, it's just regular season predictions. Boston Celtics should be the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference again. But yeah, that's going to be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments your predictions, who you think will be certain seeds in the East, what you think the Eastern Conference is going to look like in the regular season this year. Once again, if you like the content around here, consider subscribing, like, turn on notifications, do all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.